Hello, this is Nikki, Dave's wife. We would like to thank you for watching My Own Devices. Making these videos keeps Dave busy and stops him from watching football and programs about spacemen and motor cars. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and share the videos whenever possible. Thank you.
Hello, greetings. Over the course of the past year, I've certainly shot many hours of footage that never has seen the light of day. Sometimes I lose interest in the topic, or I'm just not happy with the results, or I move on and find something else that excites me, and it's all kind of organic. I was scrolling through some old video files on my computer and started to realize that maybe I have enough footage that I may be able to combine into something that is somewhat interesting and coherent. Give it a watch and let me know what you think of it and leave comments. Obviously this may end up being a complete mess and terrible and boring, but I'll do what I can to edit it together in a way to keep it moving along. So let's see how it goes. First up, early last year I bought a pair of Klipsch Quartet loudspeakers. These were stored in the shed for years, and one speaker was exposed to water for long enough that the base of the cabinet started to fall apart. So I ended up removing both bases so they would at least match. I had to mitigate swollen particle board damage that was looking really bad, and I believe I did a good job, and they definitely passed my 5-foot, appearance rule. These have large passive radiators in the back, and one had been the repeated victim of cat's claws. And the dust cap had been slashed in several places, and the diaphragm just had some surface damage, so I used Elmer's glue to stick down the frayed pieces. I bought a replacement dust cap and glued it down back in place. I thought I was going to keep these speakers for a while, so I decided to invest in some Bob Kreitz titanium tweeter upgrades that I'd read about. So I guess I decided at the time that the world really needs another video on how to upgrade Klipsch tweeters. So here it is. I think it's pretty straightforward. So first thing I'm going to do is remove these 4 screws from the tweeter. All right. Now, so it's a little tricky to get the angle right. Remove it from the hole, and then we have the 2 speaker leads coming out. Let's just leave it like that for now. Now if I disconnect these wires, there's a chance they'll fall back inside. So I'm going to use some painter's tape, this blue painter's tape, and tape them down somehow here. Now we're going to carefully pull the leads off the speakers, jiggle them off. There's one. Whoop, came loose. Jiggle this one off. Oop, there we go. These tweeters are attached to the magnet with 3 nuts. You can see the first one there. There's another one there. And there's another one there, you can see. Okay, using these needle nose pliers, I twisted around and loosened these 3 nuts. So I'm going to remove them with my fingers to get the final bits off. Okay, I've got all 3 nuts off. I'm going to remove the horn, and there we are. There's the old dome tweeter there. Now, what we do, I'm going to turn it around here, and I think I just lift it off. It comes right off. And you don't really need to keep it. You can throw it away. You don't need that little wadding thing on the back. The whole thing can be disposed of or whatever. Okay, here we got the Bob Kreitz tweeter. Comes in this nice plastic case. And there is the pristine titanium replacement tweeter diaphragm. And from what I could see, I think you just line up the 3 holes into 3 of the pin screws here and slide it on. Make sure the gasket goes down as well. That one caught. That one caught around there. Okay, it's nice and flat now. Next step is to attach the horny thing. Okay, I attached the magnet to the tweeter horn. It's nice and snug and tight. So I'm going to reattach these lead wires, and you might recall the green positive mounts on the top little terminal here. So that slides on very easily. Listen, in the past I've had a hell of a time sometimes pulling these off or putting them back on, but this was super easy. Got the gasket, make sure the gasket is okay. And we're going to, there's the hole's got a little cutout here to fit the magnet through, so make sure you slide it in that way. And then get your screws, screw them back in. It's gonna have to hold it in a bit because the weight of the magnets. You have to hold on to the cabinet while you tighten these. Get them on nice and tight. You don't want any air escaping. Tighten the other drivers while you got your screwdriver out. Make sure they're on nice and tight. All right, it's on. Let me tell you, that was probably the easiest upgrade I've ever done on a speaker. That was very simple. I really appreciate how easy this was to do. I've seen some other modification videos that required soldering and modifying the tweeters or the cabinets in order to get them to fit properly. Hats off to Bob Kreitz and this super simple modification upgrade. The result of this upgrade, from what I recall, is that the Quartets had a much better top end. I think it was more articulate, a little bit brighter. But I also remember thinking, you know, this isn't such a dramatic difference, but you know, I was expecting more of a difference, but in a way that's probably a good thing. You don't want a simple tweeter upgrade to completely transform the sound of your speakers. I ended up selling them a few weeks later because I actually realized that they're probably they were too big for the room they were in, and I had some other ideas for that room. So I ended up selling them, and they sold very quickly. My next segment was an idea I had to demonstrate one of my favorite products using a pair of recently acquired Infinity reference studio monitor speakers. And I believe one of the reasons I never went with this part was that the speakers were actually in very good condition, and the transformation wasn't as dramatic as it had been with some other speakers I'd done previously but didn't make videos of. But I think I was able to demonstrate my techniques of what I do when I get a pair of old, vintage speakers that need a bit of work. I just acquired these Infinity reference studio monitors from a gentleman in a nearby town who had to get rid of them because he said that they were too big for his new apartment, and his wife said that they were too big and he needed to get something smaller. So I'm very lucky to get a hold of these. He was the original original buyer of these from the early 80s. So for their age, they're in remarkable condition. He did pay to get the surrounds and the woofers redone a few years ago, so that's really good. The mid-tweeter and the mid-range are all in fine shape. So I'm going to take a little time here to show you what I do to spruce up speakers after I get them. Like I said, these are in really good condition. There's just a small amount of damage here in the corner here and a little bit over here that I'm going to address now. And what I use, I'm going to try, I've never used this before. This is a product I'm going to try. It's a wood filler by Minwax, and it's color matched, and since these are oak, I went with the golden oak color. I'm going to take some of this wood filler. I'm trying to do this with the camera. It's kind of so I'm going to squeeze a little bit out, put it in place here. I'll use this putty knife here. Not easy doing this for the camera. Don't worry about angles and whatnot. I'll put a little bit on this edge here. Build it up a little bit. Seems to match pretty well. Doesn't look too bad. I let the wood filler dry overnight. I got a wet rag and wiped away some of the excess. And I'm pretty happy with this colored wood filler. I think it blends in pretty well. It's not finished yet. I still have to apply the Restore-A-Finish by Howard. This Howard stuff comes in different colors, different finishes, so we're going with the golden oak because I'm using these on some oak speakers. I've also got dark walnut, which I use a lot of, and if you have really dark, like black speakers, this ebony brown is pretty black for that kind of thing. I never try to restore my speaker cabinets to look pristine, brand new. I like a little bit of wear to show some patina. These speakers are 30, 40 years old sometimes, and they have a history, and there's nothing wrong with showing a little bit of history in something so old. Okay, I've got the Howard Restore-A-Finish in golden oak, and I'm going to apply it to the top of this Infinity speaker. As I said before, they're in really good shape, but this stuff kind of adds a little bit extra smoothness, makes some, it evens out some of the wear on the surface of the speakers. And there's just minor little scratches here and there. But I really like this. I believe it kind of dissolves the varnish or the polyurethane a bit, and smooths them out, evens out the color or the tone, or the finish, let's say. You apply just a little bit to the steel wool. I'm gonna spill it. And you just, with the grain, obviously, you start rubbing it on. So I apply a little bit of pressure, not a tremendous amount. It's very fine. It's much finer than sandpaper would do, I think, or a very fine sandpaper. It doesn't really do much in terms of smoothing it down physically, but I think this is just how you get it into the grain of the wood. Usually the bottom side of a speaker is the roughest part. Obviously they're often sitting on floors or shelves, or when they're moved around they get scuffed and scratched, and I've seen some pretty rough ones in my day. These are pretty good, but you could see now these came with stands that were made for this speaker, and you can see the outline here of the speaker stand, which is, it's lighter here than it is here. I've never seen that before. As I said, the corners are really sharp. Often I get speakers, at least one or two of the corners, especially on the bottom, are bashed in. Another Howard product I like is their feed and wax. which is, what's it say? It's wood polish and conditioner. After you rub this on and leave it for about 20 minutes, you can really see the wood soak it up like a sponge. Because a lot of times these speakers have been sitting around in somebody's garage or closet for years, and the wood really dries out. Just take some of this, put it on a rag, a cloth, squeeze some out. There you go. Now I'm going to rub it to the wood. Well, I've buffed them off with a soft cloth after I applied the feed-in wax, and they really look nice. Can't complain about that. And those marks, you barely, those little gouges in the edges, can't really even notice them. So they are very nice cabinets. As I said, the oak grain is beautiful. I much prefer real veneer cabinets. Number one, they look nicer. They have a certain amount of depth. Here I use a soft brush and a damp Q-tip swab to remove years of accumulated dust on the speaker surrounds, cones, and inside the speaker terminal crossover cavity on the back. I decided to opt out of shooting myself recovering these grills. There are plenty of those available online. I had some extra black cloth and I thought they'd look sharp like that. Once again, I did sell them off a few weeks later, as like the Klipsch, they didn't really fit in with my plans. If you saw my WAF Wife Acceptance Factor video, these were briefly auditioned, but I believe I edited this part out. I've got these DCM CX17s. They're small little bookshelf style speakers. Let me pan back here a little bit so you get a full picture of how they look. They're tiny and they're almost smaller than the center channel, really. So before I put them away, I thought I'd show you what they look like with the grills off. These are interesting design with the tweeter in the middle, and there's like mesh grill over the mid-range woofer. It's kind of like a coaxial design that you see in a lot of DCM speakers of this era. Pretty cool. They don't sound bad. But anyway, I thought I'd show them to you. Lastly, in this next clip, I'd read somewhere that you can improve the performance of a turntable by taking off the bottom and adding modeling clay to the chassis under the plinth there. And it's supposed to deaden resonances and improve sound quality. So I gave it a shot, and I used an old Technics SLD2 for this particular demonstration.